If you are a female doing van life, you need to watch this video. Things have changed in the last several years since I started traveling the country in my van. And there are steps you need to take to ensure your safety. In this video, I'm going to share 20 tips with you that I think will help keep you safer on the road. Whether you're doing van life because you want to travel and you're doing it by choice to travel on a budget, or whether you're doing van life because you don't have a choice and you're living either in a van, an RV, or even a car. These tips, I believe, will help keep you safer. So come on, let's get started. Now, there are some of you who are probably going to make comments in the comment section asking, well, why did you single out solo females? Well, like it or not, in this country, females are viewed as more vulnerable, and as a result, we're often targeted. I truly believe these 20 or so tips that I'm going to share with you can help to make you less vulnerable on the road as a solo female traveler or nomad. I'm going to refer to my notes periodically so I don't forget any of these valuable tips. Number 1, have at least one person who you reach out to on a daily or every other day basis. Let them know where you are and where you plan to be between the time you're speaking with them and the next time you'll be in contact with them. The reason for this is, should you have a medical emergency in your van and you can't reach out for help, or should you be hiking and fall and can't reach out for help, or God forbid, should someone be holding you against your will, you have someone who is expecting to hear from you, and if they don't, they will try and reach you. And if they can't reach you, hopefully they will send down an alarm, and people will know where your last destination was, and they will know where you were planning to go. So hopefully that will narrow down the search area for anyone looking for you. Number 2, I try my best not to ever park overnight or camp where there is no cell signal. I just think it's a very bad idea to be somewhere where if something happens and you need help, you have no way of reaching out for it. Also, if you're camping with others and let's say you are somewhere where you don't have a cell signal, but the people you're camping with do, I would suggest, and this is something I'm going to implement, that you carry a walkie-talkie set with you, and you keep one in your van, and you keep one in someone else's van who has cell signal. This way, if you have a medical emergency during the night, you have a way to reach someone to let them call out and get help for you. Number 3, try and pre-plan your overnight parking if possible. And why I say this is because it's so difficult sometimes on the road, when you're driving, you get tired and you get off the highway and you start looking for a site. It could take really up to an hour. I've had it take up to an hour for me to find an appropriate place. So if you can plan it in advance, it makes it so much easier for you. And some of the sites you can use, there are many, are freecampsites.net, also Campinion. But my favorite site for finding places to park on the road when I'm traveling is Truckmaster Fuel Finder. How I use the Truckmaster site is, let's say I'm traveling from California to Oregon. I would put in California. I'd be traveling on Interstate 5, so I'd put in Interstate 5. It will show me all the truck stops with the city and highway exit. Once I have decided where I want to stop for the night, I will usually call to just confirm that they still are open, that they do in fact allow overnight parking, and I'll get the name of the person I spoke with, and if they say, yeah, it's okay, when I go to the truck stop and I park, should I ever get a knock on the door, which I've never had, but should I get a knock on the door, I can always say, well, I talked to John and he said it was okay for me to park here. Number 4, Do your best to pull into wherever you're going to be parking before dark. Whether you're just boondocking for the night or you're pulling into a camp spot where you're going to be camping for an extended period of time. There are several reasons for this. It is so much easier to assess a location during the daytime to see if it looks a little sketchy, if it's someplace you'd be comfortable or wouldn't be comfortable parking at. So much easier during the daytime. And if it's at night at a campsite, it really helps you not to be driving into ditches and stuff if you pull in during the daytime so you can see where you're headed. That brings me to number 5, and that is once you are settled in, especially if you're boondocking overnight at a rest stop or at a truck stop, once you've pulled in, settle down for the evening and don't get back out of your vehicle. You do not want to bring attention to yourself, and you don't want people seeing that you're a solo female traveling. If you need to get gas, if you're at a truck stop, wait till the next morning to get it. Whatever you need, try and save doing that until the next morning when it's daylight. Speaking of staying in your van once you've settled for the evening, that brings me to the next item, which is have a way to use the bathroom in your van. I don't care if it's a toilet, a bottle, or a bag. You do not want to be getting up in the middle of the night, as some of us older folks have to do, to go out and search out a toilet to use the bathroom. You don't want to be doing that alone at 1 or 2 in the morning. I think we're on number 7. And this is an important one also. If you have windows in the back of your van, make sure they're covered. You don't want someone to be able to walk by your van and peer in and see that you're sleeping in there alone. If you're not going to cover the front windshield, that's okay, but have a curtain of some sort that goes between the driver's area and the back sleeping area if that's where you're sleeping. But you want any window that reveals where you are and someone can see where you are and see you alone. You want those covered. Also, I would just point out, don't have things in the front if the windshield is not covered that suggests that it's a female in that van. You know, like pink fluffy slippers or a travel bag that has flowers all over it, or anything else that suggests that these are things that belong to a woman. Number 8, keep your driver's seat clear. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, when they park at night, they shift things from maybe the back of their vehicle to the front and put them in the driver's seat and the passenger seat. Don't pile up things in your driver's seat. If you need to leave quickly, you want to be able to get right to your driver's seat, turn on those keys, and drive out. And that means keeping a clear path from wherever you're sleeping also to your driver's seat. You don't want to have to be climbing over things, moving things, and delaying your exit if you have to leave quickly. That brings me to number 9, how you park. Try your best to park in a way that you are not going to be able to be blocked in. It's really best, if possible, to have more than one way to exit. If someone comes in and they're kind of on the right, that you can leave to the left. And if they're to the left, you can leave to the right. But for me, if someone came in and I could see they were deliberately blocking me or trying to block me, I would leave. That would be a red flag, and I would leave. Number 10, keep your phone and your keys in the same place all the time when you're asleep and nearby where they're easily accessible. I always put my phone and my keys in the same spot every night. So if I have to get up and leave quickly or call for help, I don't have to fumble around looking for my phone or trying to find my keys, losing precious time. Speaking of phones, number 11 is make sure to keep your phones fully charged, especially when you go to bed at night. You never know if you may need to call for help, and your phone can be your lifeline. Don't let it completely go down to where you have zero charge should you have to call for help. Number 12 may seem a bit odd, but it really isn't. And that is when you go to park somewhere, don't park next to a large trash bin or a brick wall or a cinder block wall. You know how some places will have kind of a half wall in their parking lot? The reason being, when you go to get out, you can't see what's on the other side, and you don't know if someone is waiting on the other side and will rush you when you go to get out of your van. Also, equally important, if you get out and someone rushes you, if you're behind that wall or trash bin, no one can see that you need help looking from the other direction. So again, don't park next to things that obstruct your view and you can't see what's around them. Number 13 is probably one of the top 3 tips of importance, and that is be aware of your surroundings. When you go to get out of your van, don't be talking on your phone or looking down texting on your phone. Don't have ear pods in your ears so you can't hear if someone walks up to you. Look around, see who is around when you get out of your van, and just notice. I'm not saying be paranoid, but I'm saying do be attentive to what's going on around you. Let me give you an example. And perhaps I'm a little more attentive because I was a peace officer for so long. But I was in a grocery store the other day, and I completed my shopping. I happened to notice, when I go in, I always kind of notice who's there. And I noticed this one particular woman. Well, I left, put my groceries in my van, and I drove about maybe a half a mile down the road. And I went into another store. It wasn't a grocery store. It was a different type of store. And when I was in there for a few minutes, I happened to glance over and see the woman that I saw at the grocery store come into this second store. Now, at this point, I'm not alerting or I'm not alarmed, but I did notice that a half a mile later, I'm seeing the same person. And it was completely a coincidence. But had I gone to a third store and saw her come into that store or be parked in the parking lot in a third store that I went into, at that point, I'm going to go on alert. And I'm going to suggest the same thing to you. If you're traveling and over a period of miles, you go into a number of different businesses or places or stops, and you see the same person come in behind you or in the parking lot, that's something that you may want to go on alert behind. Just be mindful of it. And there are devices that people can put under your car when you go into a business or you're away from your vehicle that can track you. So just keep that in mind and be alert again of your surroundings and who's around you. Number 14, don't let people know that you're traveling alone. If I make a stop, say to get gas or to go into a mini mart to get something to drink or use the bathroom, as I'm getting out of my van, I will call back in and I'll say something like, James, do you want me to get you something to drink too? Or Mark or John, do you want me to get you something to drink? I'll give the impression that I'm traveling with someone and that someone is a male. One of my viewers in a comment stated that what she does is when she goes into a place, she will order 2 cups of coffee to go. And she will do that to try and, again, give the impression that she's traveling with someone else and that she's not alone. Number 15, try not to let your gas tank get below halfway full. Can you imagine running out of gas in the middle of nowhere? And even worse, somewhere that you have no signal for your phone? The safety reasons for this should be pretty self-evident. Number 15, try your best to avoid driving at night. I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me. Last year, I was taking a trip, meeting family in Las Vegas. And all of a sudden, one of my hoses in my van blew. And my temperature gauge immediately went up to overheating. And I had to pull over right away, otherwise I could have damaged my engine. What happened that where I pulled over was on a very steep incline, and it was very busy traffic on a highway, a busy highway, and where I had to pull over, it was just inches from my door from the oncoming traffic. And then I had to get out and walk a little distance to a call box. Can you imagine having to do that at night and how dangerous that would have been at night? So you never know what may happen. So if you can, do your best to avoid driving at night. Safety tip number 17 is for YouTubers and individuals who post online. Now, this is something I have been guilty of, but based on some recent developments, I am changing. Do not post in real time. What I mean by that is if you are at a specific location, do not put that video up that same day that you are at that location. Leave and be at least a day or more away from that location before you post that video. If you're going to be staying courtside for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, or you're camping somewhere for an extended period, you may say, I'm in courtside, because people would know anyhow probably. But don't let people know the exact location of where you're camping. Safety tip number 18 is about what you would carry with you to help defend yourself if a situation arose that you had to do so. As a retired peace officer, I have specific ideas about that, and I believe in certain enhanced, I'll call them enhanced, safety devices. But this is a very personal area, and you have to decide what you are comfortable with. Whatever you carry with you to try and help keep you safe, just make sure you know how to use it and you're safe using it. Whether it's pepper spray, whether it's bear spray, whether it's something else, just make sure you know how to use it. Also, I would have several items. I wouldn't just have one, and I would have them throughout different locations in my vehicle, especially easily accessible in the area where you sleep at night, should you be awakened in the night and have to do something to defend yourself. Usually what you're trying to do is not necessarily take down the other person. What you're doing is trying to buy time so you could get attention, so maybe someone can come over and help you, or buy time so that you can get out of the immediate danger. All right, number 19. And this is something I strongly suggest, and that's having some form of roadside assistance. And I would suggest having something where it's an upgraded assistance, so you can go beyond 25 miles, because oftentimes you may be somewhere where getting to a garage or mechanic is significantly more than 25 miles. And if you don't have the upgraded service, it could cost you easily $1,200–1,500. Had I not had upgrade service when I had to be towed on the way to Las Vegas, it would have cost me over $1,200. So again, that's up to you, but I think that this is an extra expense that's worth it. Number 20 is maintain your vehicle. You can avoid a lot of problems and a lot of breakdowns and a lot of anguish by just doing regular oil changes. Whenever I get ready to go on a long trip, I have my tire pressure checked. I have everything checked in terms of my fluid. I have my brakes checked. So doing regular maintenance and then an extra special checkup when you're getting ready to go on a long trip. I think we are on that was number 20, I think. I'm going to give you a bonus one, and I think this is probably the most important one. And that is, listen to your gut. This will keep you more safe, I think, than almost anything else. Don't argue with yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you drive into somewhere and you get a feeling, you just feel creeped out and you just don't know why, and you don't see any evidence that this may not be a good place to park or to camp, but you just have a gut feeling that you need to leave. Don't argue with yourself and try and say, well, I don't see anything. I'm being silly. I'm being foolish. No, listen to that gut, listen to your instinct and your intuition, and get out of there and leave. Same thing, if someone pulls into a spot where you're parked at and you have a bad feeling, pack up and leave. This will keep you safer, I think, than almost anything else on the road traveling, as a solo female nomad or as a male. All right, well, I hope these tips were helpful and that you stay safe on the road. I love each and every one of you. May your journeys be filled with joy and blessings, and I will see you down the road.